You're listening to Coffee and Sports from Wire to Wire Sports Network on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Walking through a ghost town, y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down, don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, wheels stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, happy Tuesday, sir.
Happy Tuesday, partner, and everybody out there joining us.
Mo, I took a lot of heat yesterday. I took a lot of heat from Minnesota Viking fans. 14-2, Chris. Did you see what we did during the regular season? I saw it. Mo. I saw it. I knew what you did during the regular season. You won a lot of close games. And you won a lot of one-score games. And Sam Darnold didn't play like the Sam Darnold we all knew during the regular season. He played a little bit above his skis at times. And Mo, we talked about this yesterday. The Rams are a second half football team. They are what we call closers. And when we made our picks yesterday, I made my pick based on the simple fact that I went with the better quarterback. I think that more times than not, when it comes to playoff football, the better quarterback and the better head coach win more often than they lose. And in this particular situation, I thought the Rams had both. They had the better quarterback in Matthew Stafford. They had the better head coach in Sean McVay. It's not taking anything away from Kevin O'Connell, who I think is a fine head coach. It's taking anything away from Sam Darnold, who had a great season. But it wasn't even close last night, Mo. 9 times Sam Darnold was sacked. Let that sink in. 9 times he was sacked. I didn't think we were going to see that kind of performance from the Rams defense. The Vikings defense only got to Matthew Stafford twice. 9 times Sam Darnold was sacked. And on top of that, he didn't play that great outside of being sacked 9 times. He turned the ball over. His decision-making wasn't on point. The Rams defense, I believe they had a touchdown or a fumble recovery was on their side too. So it's tough because, Mo, you look at this and it was a great season for the Vikings. And the Vikings are another team. And I wouldn't even say they were a year early, Mo. I think they were a team that we just didn't think was going to be competitive. Not after losing Kirk Cousins, not with J.J. McCarthy as their starting quarterback, not in that division. With the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions, did we think they were going to even sniff the wild card? But not only did they sniff the wild card, they had the second best record in the NFC. So you look at all that, and then you look at the one and done in the playoffs, and you look at the fact heading into next season, is it Sam Darnold coming back? Do they turn the keys over to J.J. McCarthy? Is Aaron Rodgers coming in for a year while JJ kind of fully gets healthy and learns the system? We don't know. But what I do know, Mo, is that it's hard to wake up this morning as a Minnesota Viking fan and look in the mirror and not kind of feel like you wasted a 14-2 season. Because this isn't this isn't the Ravens, right? This isn't the Ravens or the Bills, or where you look at it and you go, we can go 14-2 next season. Like we good. Like it is what it is. Like, yeah, we had a really great season. It's a disappointing loss in the playoffs, but we're back next season. If you're a Minnesota Viking fan, you wake up this morning going, we could miss the playoffs next season and nobody would be surprised. Like, that's the uncertainty that is kind of surrounding the Minnesota Vikings right now. So, Mo, I look at it as a great season, but a wasted season because you're one and done in the playoffs. You kind of, at the end of the day, you kind of were what everyone said you were, right? You were a team that was just kind of being carried by your defense, that when push came to shove, you weren't going to go anywhere with Sam Darnold, and Vikings fans fought that narrative all year, all the way to 14 wins. And then the playoffs come, and it's a chance for them to step up and flex a little bit and be like, no, like we are, and you weren't.
You know, during the broadcast, Troy Aikman pointed out that going 14-2 and then losing right out the gate in the playoffs knocks the air out of you because, like you said, why go 14-2?
Right.
You know what I mean? You could be a 10-win team and get knocked out immediately. And look, we constantly talk about the importance of your quarterback play and going forward the future of your quarterback. I want to give Sam Darnold credit for having a terrific season. He had a terrific season. He's going to be a Pro Bowler this season. But ultimately, it's about what you do in the postseason. And I'm looking at Minnesota. I actually thought it was the beginning of the end. Their last game in the regular season. I thought Sam Darnold got undressed that game, and he looked more like the Sam Darnold that you had seen over the breadth of his career. So to me, a 14-2 team, or as Gene points out, a 14-3 team now, they go into the offseason, and I think there's more questions than answers because, look, Brian Flores, what he did with that defense, he's probably going to get an opportunity to be a head coach, so he won't be back. But more importantly, like you said, who's the starting quarterback? I would argue that normally the market says, well, you're going to give Sam Darnold 3-year contract and a raise, but the last 2 weeks he's probably cost himself some money. And I'm looking at him if I'm Minnesota and going, Sam played well, but wasn't this more like a blip versus he's going to do this again next year? He's going to be this guy again next year for the breadth of the season. They really do have more questions. JJ is going to be healthy, but is JJ ready to take on the reins to be the guy? They have a lot of questions. They're going to be a completely different team, honestly. Look, what's not going their way is they have 2 really talented wide receivers. One of them is one of the 3 best in all of football. Their tight end is one of the best in all of football. Aaron Jones, even though he's a little bit older, still a versatile back. They have talent on the offensive end. But I just think that this 14-2, it matters, but it's wasted. It's wasted. We made our picks, and it was simple for me, Chris. I said if Matthew Stafford could plant his feet, the Rams are going to win. I fully believe that. And he didn't have massive passing numbers, but what he did do is against that defense, he took everything he could underneath. He worked the underneath and the middle routes, and he controlled the football game. It was a very Patrick Mahomes-like performance. They weren't going to be explosive offensively, Chris, but they were going to move the football. They were going to control the clock, and they won the football game. And I know Minnesota fans are like, that's okay. Like you said, they're going to be like, we'll be back. We're going to win 11 or 12 next year. You might, but I wouldn't bet money on that because I don't even think you know who your starting quarterback's going to be going forward.
And even if Minnesota does want Sam Darnold back, which we don't know if they do or they don't, there's going to be competition for him. I mean, you look at teams out there like the Raiders, the Steelers, the Giants, the Dolphins who want a backup quarterback. Not saying he would pick, a backup role over a starting role, But after going 14-3 and after leading the Minnesota Vikings to the playoffs and kind of rejuvenating his career, if you don't think another team or two isn't going to kick the tires on Sam as either a potential starter for the next couple of seasons or a starter for next season as their rookie progresses and sits,
Right.
You're wrong. There's teams that are going to reach out. The Minnesota Vikings are not going to be the only team that is in the Sam Darnold sweepstakes this offseason. Now, obviously, if you want to make him the starting quarterback and you want to make him some guarantees, that's fine. That's one thing. Do I think that teams are going to call potentially about JJ McCarthy to check out his availability? Probably. Do I think that you should move JJ McCarthy and roll the dice with Sam Darnold? No, I don't. Because I think what you saw the last 2 weeks from Sam Darnold is closer to where he is than what, you know what I mean? Like his his shortcomings are his shortcomings. And you saw those the last 2 games that he played. Now, is he going to do that, 18, 17 times during a season? No. I think you're going to get a little less than what you saw this season. But do I think that at this point in his career, Sam Darnold is a franchise quarterback that is going to lead a team to, playoff appearances 3 out of 5 seasons, 4 out of 6 seasons for the next 6 years? No, I don't think he is that. I think he's Geno Smith. I think he is above average at times. I think he is someone that, can stabilize a franchise, which he did with Minnesota because there was a lot of uncertainty after Kirk Cousins left and then JJ went down and Sam, he did a great job. But you look at Geno and you look at Sam Darnold and they're a short-term answer while you're trying to figure out the long-term answer. And I just don't think he is the long-term answer in Minnesota. Now, no matter what they do, the Dallas Cowboys are going to make headlines, Mo.
No matter what.
No matter what they do. They could do nothing and they're still going to make headlines. In fact, that's what they did last offseason. They did nothing and they still made headlines. But it's interesting because there was a request, I believe it was by the Raiders. I could be wrong. But there was a request by another NFL team to speak to Mike McCarthy about their head coaching vacancy. And Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys said, no, we will not allow you to do that. We have Mike under contract. We have this window to negotiate with him before his contract expires. And no, you're not going to talk to him. And everyone was kind of like, oh, not letting Mike talk to people. Maybe it looks like Mike might be coming back kind of thing. And then Jerry Jones goes out and talks to Deion Sanders about becoming the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And Deion, being Deion, was like, I'll talk about it. You want to talk about it? I'll talk about it. And he released the following statement. He said to ESPN, to hear from Jerry Jones is truly delightful, and it's intriguing. I love Jerry and believe in Jerry. After you hang up, you process it, and you think about it, it's intriguing. But I love Boulder and everything there is about our team. He didn't say no, Mo.
No, he said, Jerry, you need to sweeten the pot a little bit.
Right.
That's what he said.
Nowhere in there did he say he declined to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He also didn't say he was offered to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, in all fairness. But he kept using the word intriguing. This is intriguing. And then he just says, I love Boulder, and I love everything about her, which I believe. I believe he loves Boulder, and I believe he loves everything about Colorado. Never said he wasn't leaving Colorado. Like, I saw reactions to this quote this morning from college football fans saying, see, he's not going nowhere. Mo, what in that quote tells you that he's not going nowhere?
Nothing at all. He said all the right things. I love Boulder. What was he gonna say? That I don't really like here that much.
Right.
People annoy me. He said all the right things. But I thought the thing that they should have hung their hats on and really listened to is when you say intriguing multiple times, it means you're interested. It means you could consider it. I'm not saying he's going to be the Cowboys head coach because Deion's a smart man. And what makes it intriguing for him is the opportunity, but he also knows Jerry likes to implore a great deal of control over his head coaches. That's not Deion Sanders. That won't work. He would literally have that in his contract. I don't want you coming down to the field during practice. I don't want you hovering over me. I don't want you calling me about play suggestions or who should be getting in the game. He would have a long list put into his contract. That I think is more hype because Jerry's not going to cave to that either because he's a naturally controlling guy. It's who he is. But I think if Jerry Jones made Deion an offer he couldn't refuse, I think all that love from Boulder, it'd be in the rearview mirror.
It's interesting. Before the game last night, it went viral a little bit. There was a picture of Lions head coach Dan Campbell, and he was having an exchange with Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell at the end of their game in the regular season. And in that exchange, picked up by the mics, was him telling Coach, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Meaning, in Dan Campbell's opinion, the Vikings were going to beat the Rams this week and then match up with the Lions in 2 weeks. Well, that picture and that quote was put right above the Rams locker room this week. And no, they won't be seeing the Vikings in 2 weeks. Mo, I get it. Players don't really play harder just because someone said something mean about. I get it. They're professional athletes. But we both know that when it comes to sports, any little edge you can find out there is not a bad thing. And I will tell you right now, you don't need motivation to get out of bed to face the Detroit Lions. They were the pick before the season started as a favorite to make the Super Bowl. They have consistently lived up to that honor throughout the season, and they are currently one of the trendiest picks to make the Super Bowl. If you can't show up to play them, then you can't show up at all. But it's unfortunate that
there's history there, though.
Campbell. There is
history there.
There is. It's unfortunate that he put himself in that pickle.
It is, and just remember, they just played the Rams last year in the postseason, and that was a competitive football game. And
let's not forget Jared Goff,
right? and they were pumped up, right, because they beat Matthew Stafford, right? That was a thing for them. Well, I think the Rams and Matthew Stafford would love to send Detroit home, return the favor. I think they'll come in there just as motivated. And by the way, this Rams defense is much better than the Rams defense from last year. I have no doubt that Detroit, with that offense, is going to score some points. But I think with their defense being depleted, even though Aaron Glenn has been terrific and the way he's mixed things up, I think a quarterback like Stafford, who's seen everything, I think he will take opportunities. I think this coming game, it'll be another shootout. But, and I know this is the popular pick. We don't make our picks this early, but you know what? I'm not betting against Matthew Stafford in that game.
It's not very often, Mo, that we hear Troy Aikman say anything negative about the Dallas Cowboys. But Troy Aikman was on Monday Night Countdown leading into the game last night, and they were talking about the head coach vacancy for the Dallas Cowboys after the departure of Mike McCarthy. And they talk about the Deion stuff, obviously. And it was said on the broadcast that it was called a coveted head coaching job. To which Troy Aikman promptly chirped in, Mo, I don't know if that's accurate. Okay, Troy. Usually, Troy's the guy beating the Cowboys' drum.
He is.
And right away, he's like, I don't know if that's accurate. Is it accurate? is the head coaching spot of the Dallas Cowboys coveted? Because think about this, Mo. What are the greatest coaching opportunities in all of American sports? The New York Yankees,
Yeah.
the Los Angeles Lakers,
Yes.
the Dallas Cowboys. Like, those are the ones that come to mind, right? But then you look at it and you go, well, no, the Lakers won the COVID title. Yeah, okay. Dallas hasn't been to a Super Bowl since the 90s. Yeah, the Yankees just went to a World Series, but probably haven't won one since 2009. Like, those aren't the teams winning championships. But yet they're still revered as the nostalgic best jobs in American sports. Is it a situation where it's the brand in the Dallas Cowboys that gets the talk and not necessarily the quality of the job? Or is any NFL coaching job one of the top spots in all of sports?
I wouldn't say any, but I would say for Dallas, you just brought it up. It's the brand, right? It's the brand that they've built up for decades in. Their fan base talks about them year in and year out in the offseason as if they just barely missed going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Or if they just lost in the Super Bowl. Not, no, the last time you were there was 95.
Right.
And so it is the brand. But I think Troy said the quiet part out loud. Like, you get past the brand. If you're a head coach, you want an opportunity, but you want the right opportunity, right? You want the right opportunity. I don't know if trying to work in concert with Jerry Jones is ever the right opportunity. I just don't think that. Or maybe I shouldn't just say Jerry. Let's just say the Joneses as a family, as a unit. I'm not sure every head coach wants that. I guess if you're a guy that's never been a head coach, you're not going to shy away from an opportunity like that. But Dallas is never going to hire somebody like that either. I think it's more of the hype. You're always in the public eye. There's definitely a lot of scrutiny from the media, and yet I don't think it's one of the great jobs. I think it's an overhyped job. We were just talking the other day. It slipped on my mind. Detroit's offensive coordinator, Johnson. Is it Johnson?
Yeah. Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson. I guess if Jerry Jones came to him, Ben Johnson would. But no, Ben Johnson's a smart guy. He seems like one of those guys. Like, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Because remember, you also have to look at your situation and the overall. Dallas offensively, they need a lot of work across the board. And I'm not saying Dak. Certainly, Dak is probably on par with their current quarterback. I don't think Goff is one of the top 5 quarterbacks. I would say that Dak is right there with Goff. Maybe he hasn't had the seasons he's had, but he hasn't been in Ben Johnson's system.
Correct.
So I would say they're very even or very similar. I just don't know. If I'm Ben Johnson, I'd look around and be like, what else is open? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just not dealing with the Joneses. Look, pretty soon, everybody that gets talked about, Chris, with the Dallas Cowboys, they're going to start sounding like Dion. That's intriguing.
That's intriguing.
They're going to say all the right words. By the way, you mentioned it. A lot of guys that were considered to be the next head coach of the Lakers, the more established guys, they said that stuff too. That's intriguing.
That's intriguing.
But yet they didn't really go there. Because again, like you said, the brand seems to be bigger than the actual product they put out there.
And they don't have a Jerry Jones, but they got LeBron James.
Which is kind of Jerry Jones.
Which is kind of like, right? Similar.
When it comes to I'm just talking about the control aspect.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not. He's an amazing player. I'm just talking about in terms of what he does as a. I know he always says he has nothing to do with any moves, but we all know, when has LeBron been anywhere where he didn't have any say over any moves?
Sure. It's true. I want to read you a quick list over here, Mo. This is the list of quarterbacks that Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, has caught passes from in his NFL career. Case Keenum, Dwayne Haskins, Colt McCoy, Alex Smith, Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke, Garrett Gilbert, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Carson Wentz, and Sam Howell. it took him that many quarterbacks before the Commanders finally landed on their franchise quarterback. Man, oh man, what a journey it's been for Scary Terry over there in Washington, Mo.
That's a rough journey. Wow. He's a trooper for hanging in there.
He's a trooper. Mo, I know we don't talk a lot of college football here, but I want to talk big picture college football. As the college football playoffs have progressed, we have seen multiple college football head coaches kind of bang on the new playoff system, kind of talking about how, it's not really going to crown the best college football team. It's just going to crown the team that just played the best at the end of the season. And the first time I heard that, I was like, what? That's dumb. Okay, no, not. And then I heard it like 2 more times from other college football people, Mo. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we actually talking about? Is the NBA playoffs not really an example of like which NBA team is playing their best basketball during the summer? Like, isn't that usually how that works? Like, the team that's playing the best basketball tends to do the best during the NBA playoffs.
That is how it works.
Like, isn't the team that's playing the best football probably going to do the best during the NFL playoffs? Like, if Mahomes and company come out flat this weekend, they're probably going to lose. Like, that's kind of the way that works in like any playoff system.
Didn't we just see a 14-2 team lose?
Right, because they didn't play their best football the last 2 weeks, and they lost both games. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what we're talking about in college football. Like, because the first narrative was, week 1 of the college football playoffs, Mo. Look at all these double-digit victories. This isn't competitive football. Got it. And then we move on a little bit, and it shifts to, all right, the games got better, but the best team in college football isn't going to be the national champion. What are we talking about? What are we mad about? I don't understand what we're doing here. Like, we're getting more teams in the playoff.
Correct.
We're talking about more teams throughout the season with a chance to win a national championship, which is a good thing, right? You're getting more shine for these programs that probably wouldn't be getting it if it was still a 4-team playoff. Like, I don't know what the big deal here is, because at the end of the day, Mo, sure, you want to put 12 teams in, you want to put 18 teams in, you want to put 36 teams in. Yeah, it doesn't matter. The more teams you put in, it's going to water it down a little bit. I get that aspect of it, but we're eventually going to have that moment, right? We're eventually going to have that moment where that underdog team does catch fire. Like, why do we watch the early rounds of the NCAA tournament when we know for the most part it's going to be chalk through the first day of the tournament, because there's usually no upsets, but then there are. And that's all we can talk about, is how the 2 team went down to the 15 team early, the 15 seed early, like, because it happens sometimes, and it is what it is. And you don't just show up as the 2 seed thinking, well, I'm going to get to the Final Four. We're the Elite 8. We're the 2 seed. Like, we got this locked in. You got to play the games. Oh, you got to play the games. Any given Sunday, any given Saturday. I just don't get it. I don't understand what we're talking about. I don't get it.
I don't get it either, because to me, the idea of opening up and adding 12 teams or more opportunities, more shine on those schools. And again, if you're the better football team, right? These coaches that are complaining, you'll win, right? Won't you? If you say it's more watered down, then you should be able to thump these lesser teams. It should be that simple. But we watch sports even when we know one team is favored over the other, because there's that potential. There's that potential for the upset. I guarantee you, when I'm watching NCAA basketball in the first rounds, I'm literally watching for the upset. I'm watching for that 16th seed to come out of nowhere and drop the hammer. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. I love that. that doesn't playing your best football at that time. That's for every sport. That's for every sport. If a boxer comes in and he's favored to knock out the other guy, but he's off his game and gets caught in the first round, that can happen.
That's it.
That can happen. These guys make up so many excuses. They were whining about NIL, and I know they still are.
Transfer portal.
But guess what? You're whining about NIL because you're like, now these smaller schools, they can pay money too. Like, yeah, it becomes a bidding war. But that's kind of where college football is at. I think they're going to readjust and do something else where they just out and out start giving out salaries. They're going to get there. They're going to get there. I look at what you do on the field and what your program is, and I go from there. I've actually enjoyed the college football playoffs, believe it or not. And I'm impressed, even though I wasn't rooting for them, with everything Notre Dame has done. I am. I knew they had a really good defense. I'm impressed. It's exciting to me. I think the build up to the championship game, it hasn't been a disappointment at all. You've had some upsets, but I like that too because that's part of sports. Why are we complaining?
Because the number one, the top 4 teams aren't going to do it. That's why, Mo. They just wanted to just make it into the Final Four because they're the top 4 teams. Which, by the way, why even have the playoffs then?
Agreed.
Why not just the last day of the college football regular season? Why not just have that meeting where they determine the rankings, and whoever comes out as number 1, you're the national champion. Why play games? Why play the games if that's the case? If this is just turning into some nonsense where the team that's playing the best football is going to win the national championship, why not just give the national championship to the number 1 ranked team at the end of the season, call it a day, and then we'll move on? Oh, it sounds dumb when you say it out loud? Got it. Because that's exactly what they're saying.
Right. That's exactly what they're saying.
Ridiculous. Last night was edition 2 of Monday Night Raw on Netflix. I think one of the biggest surprises of the night is the show ended like 30 minutes early. They were just done at 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I was bugging off that. I was like, good night.
What happened?
Right. Did somebody not show up? Good night.
I think we all thought, Mo, when Triple H was like, we don't have time restraints. We don't have a hard out. I think in our minds, we were all like, oh, they might go like 3 hours and 15 minutes. They might go 3 hours and 30 minutes if need. I don't think any of us thought if they got a night where there just isn't 3 hours worth of a show, they're just going to be done. They were done last night. They hit the end and they had nothing left. So we went 2.5 hours on the show last night. Debut, worst kept secret in wrestling these last few weeks. It was the debut of Penta. Little shaky. Had a couple of little shaky spots early, but man, the presentation of Penta was on point.
It was
last night, Mo. It's interesting because obviously, if you follow wrestling outside of WWE, you know the background of Penta. You know that he is well established in the world of professional wrestling. But if you don't, and you only follow WWE, and you don't really know who he is, you say, oh, what's going on here? So this new guy, he was presented as being someone important. Like, you just watch the presentation, you listen to how the announcers talked about him, and they did such a great job of packaging him and producing him as someone where you're like, I don't know who he is, but damn, like he looks like he's going to be a big deal, which is what you need to do when your audience may not know who the guy is.
No, I love the presentation. The in-ring performance, it was a little off a little bit, but you could see the talent.
Yeah.
And the excitement this guy's going to generate going forward. The show overall, I don't know. I guess because the first one was really a pay-per-view.
It wasn't a pay-per-view last night. That's for
sure.
That
felt more like a house show. Even the main event, Priest, I don't know, him and Finn, it just didn't generate nothing for me. It wasn't a bad match. it just didn't have that heat to me.
Is part of the issue that Gunther is still the world champion? Did we forget about him? Like, do we remember who the world champion is? Because I feel like we haven't seen much. We saw him last night. I mean, he's defending the championship on Saturday Night Main Event against Main Event Jey Uso. I think Gunther's run as champion has been disappointing. I think part of that is they don't really. I mean, there's a couple of things going on, right? The tribal chief stuff has kind of overshadowed him a little bit. Cody being champion has overshadowed him a little bit because Cody's on both shows. The lack of, I would say, credible challengers that you think could probably beat him.
That's a good point.
That has overshadowed a little bit, but I thought we were going to get more. I was expecting more out of Gunther's reign.
I feel like they've wasted his reign a little bit.
A little bit. I mean,
wasted it.
He hasn't done anything wrong per se. I just don't think we've seen a lot of him as world champion. And now he's got Main Event Jey Uso. It's probably going to be a good match. I mean, let's be honest. The only bad match I've ever really seen Jey have is when he fought Jimmy at WrestleMania.
I was going to say his brother.
Aside from that,
that was a clunker, right?
Jay's usually good for a good match.
But I don't think. Do you think you would think if Jey Uso beats Gunther, that's an upset, right? I don't.
That would be a huge upset.
I don't
think he's gonna.
And I have nothing against Jey. I'm a huge Jey fan. I just don't see that happening. What the problem with Gunther to me is they haven't given him a credible rival,
right?
You know what I mean? Like somebody where you're like, this guy could beat Gunther. He might be able to. They haven't given him that guy, and I think that's where they wasted his reign.
And like you thought we were gonna see that with Sammy, and then that never like truly came to fruition. Like and the other issue is there isn't really a big face over there. You look at all the good guys on the Raw roster. I mean, who is over there that's really going to challenge him? Because Punk's busy, Punk and Rollins been preoccupied with each other. Right. So once you pull them out of the equation. Yeah, you got other, like, Jey Uso is over, but over to beat Gunther? No, not really. So, I don't know. Like, it's almost like bad timing. Just the timing of his championship reign hasn't been the best for his character and the storyline. So, but like you said, the main event last night was the street fight with Balor, and that's the other thing. I mean, I guess Damian Priest is also one of the big faces on that show over there. I'm not a big Damian Priest guy, but he's preoccupied with the Judgment Day. So you're looking at some of their biggest names over there, and Damian Priest did just recently fight Gunther in the rematch and lost. But you're looking at some of the biggest faces on Raw right now, and they're just busy with non-title storylines, right. Which, by the way, isn't bad. Like, it's not a bad thing that you have all these other engaging non-title storylines going on. It just kind of sucks when you really don't have anything for your world heavyweight champion.
Which is crazy.
I was a big fan of the interaction between Rhea and Bayley and Nia Jax.
I like that. I think that might have been the best moment of the night. That
got me a little excited. I thought that the women's Intercontinental Championship match was good. I was excited for the moment to see a women's Intercontinental Champion crowned. I think there's a lot of women's belts right now, so we'll see how that plays out. Although, what they're doing on SmackDown with Chelsea, I'm here for it. It's obnoxious. It's over the top. It's stupid, but I love it. That's the stuff you need to do, because as annoying as she is, the stupid outfits, Piper Niven as her Secret Service this week.
Right.
Like, but it's entertaining. It's entertaining.
Her facial expressions, her reactions at times, even to her own moves, make me laugh. I think she has a similar kind of heat about her as Dom. It's not the same as Dom, but it's a heat because of just the character that she's developed. I actually like it. I enjoy it. I think the chemistry between her and Piper is great. That's entertaining. I think you have to have something like that in wrestling. And look, now she's winning. Now she's having
Right.
success, which makes her even more annoying and yet more entertaining at the same time.
Yeah, I'm here for it. And then let's not forget, because obviously we have 2 women's champions. We have the women's US and IC champions, and we have the tag team champions. So we have 5 belts in the women's division now between the 2 shows. But let's not forget what we got coming up later on in 2025. Becky Lynch is ready to come back. They just got to find a program for her. So with an IC belt and the US belt, you don't got to bring Becky back and put her in the big women's picture. You don't have to have her go after Rhea Ripley. You can have her have a feud for the US or the IC title. Also, Charlotte Flair is getting ready to come back.
That's who I'm waiting to see come back.
So you got 2 huge names coming back to the women's division who are immediately going to bring prestige to any feud they jump into. And it doesn't have to be the big belt feud, which is the other cool thing about all of that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It could be okay. And let's not forget, you got Bianca Belair and Jade's hurt, obviously. But
What
Bianca,
about that storyline, right? What are they going
Yep.
to do? Who pushed her? Who did that?
yep.
Because there's a lot of, they think it's the obvious person, and now people are saying maybe it's Naomi, and is Bianca going to have her back, and that kind of back and forth, and maybe it works that way because you're eventually going to get Bianca versus Jade.
Right. And they just made Tiffy champ, so
I love Tiffy, by the way.
the Tiffy reign has just begun. So you got a lot of potential in the women's division, especially with the names that are returning. So that's pretty exciting. Mo, let's pivot here a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about Major League Baseball. The rich are going to keep getting richer. It looks like Japanese ace Roki might be going to your Dodgers. I get it. As a Yankee fan, it's disappointing, but let's talk logically. Japanese players like the West Coast. It just is what it is. It's closer to their home, number one. So logistically, it's just easier. And culturally, it vibes better with them. The West Coast is a different cultural vibe than the East Coast. And the West Coast vibe is culturally more similar to the Asian heritage than it is on the East Coast. It just is what it is. Sorry, East Coast teams. So is it any surprise that the Dodgers and the Padres are the final 2 out of 3 teams in this? No, it's not. Now, how the hell the Toronto Blue Jays somehow are the other 3rd team in this mix? I have no idea what the hell is going on up in Toronto right now. But he ain't going to the Toronto Blue Jays. He is going to one of the West Coast teams like we thought he was going to this entire time. So, Mo, potentially the rich are going to keep getting richer over there. And it is what it is.
Look, the Dodgers seem to just print money, right? They just find a way to print money. And if they're able to acquire him, yeah, it's great. And it's certainly amazing on paper to go with what they already have. But I'll say this, that's a lot more pressure on Dave Roberts. That's a lot more. I mean, even though he's won a World Series, the stress and the pressure, it's going to be insane because the expectations are going to be through the roof. Because obviously with the Dodgers this coming season, they're expecting at least that Shohei might pitch. Which elevates your expectations, especially if you get the kind of pitching that you got from him prior to the injury. If he's anything like he was before, that's electric, that's box office, and I just think that heightens the pressure of them to win it all.
Well, let's not forget, if you won it when he didn't pitch, why would you not win it when he? You know what I mean?
Right. That's what I mean.
I'm just saying. LiAngelo Ball signs a deal with Def Jam Records.
I have not heard the song. I have not heard the song. I'm probably not gonna hear the song. I don't want to hear that, but yeah, good for him. Good for him
His
that he's
music
having.
contract is worth up to $13 million with $8 million guaranteed.
Yeah, and like I said, who knew that he had some musical chops, some talent? It makes up for the fact that he wasn't very talented at his chosen profession. I, well, I mean, he wasn't. Uh, I thought he was headed towards being a sports agent. So yeah, good for him. He made a left turn, and suddenly this guy's a millionaire recording artist. Good. I'm not hating on anybody's success. But anybody that ever saw the guy play, like, come on, he wasn't gonna be in the NBA. Like when you're not any good in the G League, you're not any good.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, Mo, we got 4 games happening this weekend. Let's start with the Commanders and the Lions. It's going to be rocking in there. It is going to be absolutely rocking in there.
It's going to be so loud in the Silverdome. It's going to be insane.
I don't know if the Commanders can keep pace. And this is nothing against Washington, and this has everything to do with Detroit. If this was the Bucks, I would still pick the Lions to win, but I feel like it would be a different type of game. They might get run over. The Commanders might get run over. Like I hate saying it, but I mean I think the spread in this game right now is almost 10 in Vegas. It's heavy favoring Detroit. That place is going to be unbelievable. I'm going to take the Lions. It might be a 2-score. It might be a 2-score win.
I'm taking the Lions as well. Look, I honestly think it might be more than a 2-score win. Jaden Daniels would have to put on an all-time rookie performance to keep pace. Detroit's going to score on Washington over and over. The question is, can Jaden Daniels again surprise us by being able to at least somewhat keep them in the game and make it competitive? As a fan, I hope so. I don't think so. I think Detroit's going to win this game comfortably. I don't think this is going to be a very entertaining game.
The Texans head to Kansas City. If the Texans defense plays the way that it did against the Chargers, this could be interesting. But here's the thing. Patrick Mahomes is not going to turn the football over the way that Justin Herbert turned the football over. And Andy Reid is not going to call a game that the Chargers called as the Texans defense was clamping down on them. So, and this is nothing against Harbaugh. Like I'm not taking shots at Harbaugh here, but when the walls are closing in, you got to start doing some things differently. And I don't think the in-game adjustments for the Chargers were the greatest during that game. Andy Reid we know he's a master at halftime adjustments, but he's also pretty darn good at in-game adjustments as well. This is the start of defending the back-to-back. This is the start of the road to the three-peat for the Kansas City Chiefs. They may not get there, but it's not going to be because of this week. It's going to be potentially because of whoever they face next week. I think that's going to be their first real hurdle in getting to a three-peat. I'm not saying they're going to put up 30 points. I don't think they're going to, are the Chiefs. But I do think they win this game.
I think the Chiefs win too. Even if the Texans defense is somewhat like it was versus, are you crazy? Something like it was. I don't think they're going to get the same thing. He's not Justin Herbert. You're not going to get those kind of mistakes. Even if Patrick Mahomes was to have one turnover, he's the kind of guy from that point on, laser focused. It won't happen again.
Yep.
I think Kansas City's on a mission to make this three-peat a reality. I think they're going to turn Stroud over multiple times. I think the game is going to be in control because of their defense. I think the offense won't be forced to do a lot. So I've got Kansas City winning comfortably.
The other two games should be a lot better, in my opinion. The Rams going to the Eagles. I'm going Rams.
I'm going Rams because I'm on there's the Baker train and then there's the Matthew Stafford train. And I'm not betting against Matthew Stafford. I'm not hating on the Eagles.
I'm not
But
hating
what
on
I
the
am-
Eagles either.
But what I am telling you is you're going to have the same problem. What Hurts can't do, he got a mulligan because he was coming off the concussion protocol. He's got to be better than he was last game. He's got to be much better. And if he's not, I'm rocking with Stafford. We always say the better quarterback. Well, he's the better quarterback. And I think their defense is a little underrated. I think their defense, I'm not going to say they can stop Saquon, but they can slow him down.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little higher scoring than you might think. But I think it's going to be a field goal game. I can see I see the Rams winning this on an end of the fourth quarter and a regulation field goal. I'm going Rams. And then of course we got the game of the week, the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills.
Excited for that.
Who gets to compete to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs the following week and have their dreams crushed once again? It's in Buffalo. Buffalo might find a way to win this game, as much as I hate to say it. And I'm probably going to pick Baltimore here just because I hate the Buffalo Bills.
And I knew you would.
Buffalo might find a way to win this. Here's my thing. I just think in these situations, with the exception of playing against the Chiefs, I think Lamar is going to ball out. I think he is. And I don't know if Buffalo is going to stop Derrick Henry. And that's kind of what I'm looking at. I don't think Buffalo is going to stop Derrick Henry. And I think that's the reason ultimately they're going to score points. I think they're both going to score over 24 points. I think they're both going to have good numbers. I don't think Josh Allen's going to play a bad game. I don't think they're going to turn him over a bunch of times. I think you're going to see the two leading MVP vote getters, which is probably what it's going to be, have two quality football games. I think it's going to be a close game. But at the end of the day, I don't think that the Bills can stop Derrick Henry, and I think the Ravens can stop the Bills' run game. So I'm going to go Ravens.
I'm going to go Ravens for the same reason. I think that the difference in Baltimore is Lamar has finally got a legitimate tag team partner, and it's Derrick Henry. And I don't think Derrick Henry has a rush for 150 yards against Buffalo. But if he rushes again for 95 yards and he gets 2 red zone touchdowns, I think that opens things up, obviously, for the RPO with Lamar. I think Lamar, but a combined, let's say Henry and Lamar combined for about 175 rushing yards. Game's over. Yep. I'm going to go with Baltimore. And I also think, let's not forget, Baltimore's defense is playing much better than they did the first half of the season. They look a lot more like the defense we saw last year. I expect Josh Allen to play well. I'm just going to say the Ravens play better. I think Lamar balls out even more.
And of course, Mo, that would set up a AFC championship game of the Ravens and Chiefs. We've seen that before.
We have.
And then on the NFC side, it would be the Lions and Rams. Man, that is money TV for both.
Tell me
of
that
those
storyline
games.
isn't amazing.
Come on now. If the Bills lose, if Buffalo loses to Baltimore, do you fire Sean McVay?
Man, that's tough.
Because let's talk like Buffalo Bill fan been talking, right? Josh's best season. He's the MVP this year. Yeah. He did everything we wanted him to do. Less turnovers, less running the football and taking stupid chances. They had more of a run game this season. The defense, despite losing all those pieces, has played well. And then they don't make it to the AFC Championship game, assuming they lose to Baltimore.
And this would be in his MVP season.
Correct.
Everything's set up for them to at least make it to the AFC title game. You can also throw in, they've already beaten the Chiefs in the regular season, right? They've had that kind of success. If they don't make it, look, I think McDermott is suffering a little bit from the Marty Schottenheimer syndrome. Really, really good coach. Can take you really far, but he has a limit to his, you know what I mean? Like I think there's a limit to where he can take you, and it's not a knock. It's not saying he's not a good coach. It's saying they need another voice in that locker room because everything he's done for them, it's been really, really good, but not quite enough.
Or do you go with the argument of they just can't beat the other two good teams?
I mean, you could do
which
that.
is the Chiefs and the Ravens.
Yeah, you could just say that we're one of the three best teams in our conference. We're just not the best team in our conference. You could do that. You could
That's
also
kind of what Tony Dungy had going on in the Colts, right? I mean, you have Peyton Manning.
You did.
But Peyton Manning would run into Big Ben. Peyton Manning would run into Tom Brady. And you just look at it and say, he lost to one of the best in the conference. It is what it is.
You could say that. Or you could simplify and go, as much as we love Josh Allen, he's not Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. You could say that.
You could say that. You could say that. All right, Mo, take us to a close on a Tuesday, sir.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Hey, make sure you're coming back same time, same place tomorrow. Will is going to be here on Wednesday and Thursday this week, hanging out with Mo. You got to be here for that. I'm sure the NBA talk is going to be intense for the next couple of days. All of that and more. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network, and we will